Welcome to the Scarred Sons podcast, where we dive into scars of life and the outcomes they shape. This podcast is a space for honest conversations about my journey, the lessons learned, the struggles endured, and the growth that followed, geared towards helping other sons with scars. We'll explore topics like personal development, mental and spiritual health, and the path to becoming the best version of yourself. Let's navigate these challenges together, one story at a time. Let's dive in. The views expressed on this podcast are based on my personal experiences and insights. I am not a licensed therapist, counselor, or medical professional, and the content shared is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or guidance. Please consult a qualified professional for advice tailored to your specific needs. I am not responsible for any decisions or outcomes resulting from the use of this content. What's up to all my Scarred Sons out there? I'm your host, Ty. Before we dive in, I want you to know this is a safe space. I'm not here as someone who has it all figured out, just a man willing to speak his truth. And if you carry scars, welcome home. Today, I want to talk about the scar that shaped me. All right, and by now you know this is a question base, which is kind of helps me provoke some thought to give you some value, because the way I process things, man, it's like, I don't know if you know artists that they just go in the booth and then they rap, or I don't know if you know comedians that go and stand up and they just spit out their jokes based on experiences. This is a vocal journal. I do got questions, so as we always do, let's jump in. First one is, what is a specific moment that left the deepest mark of a scar? This is tough because I've had unfortunately, many of them. But I say one that cut the deepest would have to be after going through therapy, kind of realizing where I am, right? And so I live in a different state, not far away from my home state. Grandfather passed, and it kind of changed a lot, right? Things were already changing some with the dynamic of my family. But once he transitioned, the home that we gathered, and we didn't really gather like we used to. We used to gather, I'm talking all my aunts, all my uncles, all my cousins. We all come to my grandparents' house, right? It'd be Friday nights where we order a bunch of pizzas and watch TGI on Fridays. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's the type of family I was a part of. And, you know, even later down the road, we would gather quarterly for all the birthdays in that quarter, have a cake with everybody's name on it for that quarter. So we were like close. We were, at least it seemed that way to me. But when we lost my grandfather, it really came to a halt. And I feel like that's when I got lost the most, because the home base was no longer the home base for me. I'd lived in a couple different states, obviously went off to college, and I could always come home and feel like I can relax, man. I got some peace here. I can forget about some things. I can go have a cup of coffee with my grandparents. We joking and laughing in the morning. My uncles and aunts, they trickle in through the day. I'm seeing everybody, right? Like everybody's doing what I'm doing. Like this the home. This is where you come for comfort, to get away from some things, relax, enjoy, eat, fun, be joking on each other. Like we didn't spend a bunch of money. Well, I didn't see a bunch of money spent versus if it was just food, but you didn't have to come dressed to impress. Like it won't none of that, man. You just came as your raw self, as they say, church, come as you are. Well, that's really what my grandparents' house was for us. You know, the birthday celebration stopped, the invitation stopped for Thanksgiving, invitation stopped for Christmas. I would be there, and no one would really be there. Different plans happened. Grandma gets older. She don't need to be cooking and doing that whole thing no more. So everything just changed, right? It's just like my norm, my familiarity, my place of peace was just stripped away. It's gone. Like, it is so unfamiliar. And so it still affects me to this day when certain situations roll around, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthdays. I will go home for my birthday every year, no matter where I live, no matter where I was in the world. Home was where my birthday was spent. I don't want to go home for my birthday. I don't want to go home for Thanksgiving. I don't want to go home for Christmas. Every holiday I would get off from work, I was driving home to this one address because I knew what I was going to get when I got there. And it was so consistent. But that was the last piece of consistency that I had from a family standpoint, right? I didn't have my mom consistently being a mom. I didn't have my dad consistently being a dad. All of that was off and on. But my grandparents' house was super duper consistent, and it was peace. It's plain and simple. So that's my deepest mark of a scar, is my home base being stripped away. Next question is, what coping mechanism was born from that pain? So I think the number one mechanism would be therapy, right? And let me backtrack. My wife should be number one in that mechanism for coping with the pain, because my wife opened my eyes up to the opportunity of seeing a therapist, because she could see how things were affecting me, times, days. She would obviously get the good and bad of how I felt about these situations. And so her recommendation for me to go to therapy was one of the best things that I could have ever done, to be able to talk to someone with a very neutral opinion, because I don't have to hide nothing. I can just be I can tell everything. When you have some certain conversations with people, they're on guard. They're ready to protect themselves, defend themselves. And a lot of times they don't stop and listen and just give you the complete floor and respond when they're done to what you're actually saying, and not to defend themselves. Well, the therapist allows me to do that, so long as I'm being honest, right? I mean, it doesn't help if you go in there just telling your side of the story and I was done wrong, I was done this, I'm not the perfect person either, right? None of us are. So therapy really helped me, man. It's giving me ways to cope. It's giving me things to think about, different strategies, different techniques, and ultimately it allows you to see yourself outside of yourself. It allows you to understand, that's how I feel like that because of this happened. And you can sometimes I'm tracing stuff back all the way to my parents' childhood, even though I wasn't around. But these different behaviors and the way I observe people and their actions, you can piece together what happened to them, because like I said, we're creatures of habit. So we're going to do what was done to us, and what we're going to give our best depending on what the best that was given to us. We're just channeling it down until it becomes so traumatic that you want to change it, or something gives you a reason to change something, or I don't want to go down that path no more because this was what happened here. Until that moment comes, you're generally just going to pass down your experiences. That's typically how it works, right? So I could trace some things back with the skills I have now with going through therapy. It's like, and that allows me to give grace to people. That allows me to remove expectations of people. And that allows me to receive people the way they are and believe people the way they present themselves. I don't need to overly give grace. Like, no, this is the reality. This is what you showed me. And so that's who I perceive you to be, because that's what the reality is. So therapy has been the number one coping mechanism from that pain. Next question is how that scar shows up in my adult relationships. So right now, or every year when holidays come about, people ask me, hey, you excited for the holidays? You're excited? You're going to go do this? And then now I got such a script now. It's crazy, because I'm like, no, I'm not happy. I'm not ready for the holiday, right? Until I can create a new tradition, then yes. But it definitely shows up. My heart gets heavy. My emotions change. I'm not as energetic about being in conversations. I don't get, I'm not like drained, or I don't have energy to work or to be myself. It's just a social piece, or I have a social button I'm learning that I just push around times of trauma. I just push that button and I shut down all my social. Done. And when we get past this, everybody has a good time during these holidays, what have you. If you celebrate, if you do, if you don't, whenever this time frame passes, then maybe I'll think about hitting the button to turn my social department back on. well, we going on break. Especially when holidays come, I'm shutting down the social department. It's shut down for the holidays, right? So that's how it shows up, man. I'm a lot less sociable. I want to isolate. I want to be alone. And not that I want to be alone to go cry. It's just that I've processed that this is my new reality, but I'm also still processing that this is my reality, because when the time comes back, it's like you reset, right? And so then I got to go back in my toolbox from my therapist. All right, what did he tell me to do? Okay, journal. Okay, write. Okay, go for a walk. Okay, exercise, take care of my body, still eat healthy, push through. I don't drink alcohol. I don't smoke. So thankfully, I've had bad experiences in the past that allowed me to be able to be like, nah, I'm good on all of that. I don't want none of that, right? So I've done a good job, I say, to kind of cope with these things, with the strategies and things that were passed down to me from my therapist. So shouts out to him. Last question of this episode is going to be, what emotions did I bury instead of process? Some of the emotions that I had to bury, and I didn't really speak on this, but I think I've alluded to it in this episode. It might have been a previous one, but I've had to pick and choose between aunts and uncles, right? Who I support. In doing so, when you choose a side, they also choose a side. Just how my family works. When I've chosen a side, I've lost that other person, that aunt or that uncle. The emotions from that I must bury. I shouldn't say I must bury, but I have buried, because of the simple fact that if you once chose this journey in the past, what's going to stop you from choosing it again in the future? So if we had opposing thoughts, I didn't pick your side for whatever reason, and you just disowned me, what's going to stop you from doing it again? And not to say that I was always in the right, not to say that I was always understood or listened to or heard about what decision I made, or given the opportunity to apologize. Because again, the communication piece, we typically shut down and we go mute, and we'll pick back up sometimes like it never happened. But if it happens too many times, the door never comes back open, is my experience. Having to bury that is difficult, but I'm also, it's a way to protect myself. Now, I'll say this, if I have encounters with the ones that crossed me, I've done the deep work to be able to allow them back in, but under my own terms and boundaries. Not holding them up against a cross, not asking them to explain themselves, simply welcome them back into my life. There's a certain point in which we don't cross, right? So we're not going to have conversations about other people. We're not going to talk bad about other people. You can do what you please. I'm just telling you, I'm not going to engage. If you need me to vent, I will allow that, and I will keep it between me and you, because that's what you needed. But I'm not going to add to it. I'm not going to antagonize. I'm not going to instigate. I'm not going to add fuel to any of those fires, because it just continuously drives division in the family, which has caused a lot of pain and trauma for me. I've processed it, but I've also buried it to a point where I've had the opportunity, I already have a boundary ready to go to present. That's what I got for you today, man. I know this one was a bit of a heavy one. I guess they're all kind of are. So let's end on a positive note, man. I just want to say, I hope you are, Scar Son, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're processing. I hope this information is relatable to you to the point where it can help you grow. I hope it's helpful to you to the point where you feel that you can share with another Scar Son. And I just hope it's resonating in a positive way. I don't mean to come up here and talk. I'm not really talking bad. I'm just sharing my experience so that it could possibly help you to know that you're not alone. You know, I've had thoughts of in the past, and we'll talk about this on another pod, but I've had thoughts of in the past of like just getting rid of myself, like ending this whole thing. Like, this world don't need me no more. If this what this world's going to give me, I'd rather let me figure out what the other side looks like, right? But I want to assure you, man, that you have more to live for. You have a purpose as to why you're here. That's why you continuously are waking up each morning. And so I just need you to tap into that and think less about what this world would be without you, and think more about what this world gains with keeping you here. Peace and love. Thank you for joining me on the Scarred Sons podcast. Remember, every scar tells a story, and every story has the power to inspire growth. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to reach out and share your journey. Don't forget to stay up to date with the podcast by liking, commenting, and subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at scarred.sons for more content and updates. Until next time, keep moving forward, keep healing, and remember, scars don't define you, they shape you. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.